Good morning, students. It's Monday morning. Let's see if we can pick up the rest of these cases here in chapter 32. Then we'll talk about the rest of the week. So, all right. Charles Alkenbach was appointed guardian for his son, Chad, who was 7 years old and the beneficiary of his grandfather's life insurance policy. The insurance company issued a check for $30,000 made payable to Charles Alkenbach, guardian of the estate of Chad Alkenbach, a minor. The attorney for the son's estate directed the father to take the check along with the letters of guardianship issued to the father to the bank and open up a guardianship savings and checking account. Instead, the father took the check without the letters of guardianship to the Olympic Bank and opened a personal checking account and a personal savings account. Despite the fact that the check was payable to the father in his guardianship capacity, the bank allowed the father to place the entire amount in his newly opened personal accounts. Father used all but $320.60 of the trust money for his personal benefit. A new guardian, J. David Smith, was appointed for Chad. Smith brought suit against the Olympic Bank on Chad's behalf to recover the amount of the check. Was the bank a holder in due course of the check? And yes, they would be for all but $320.60. But the bank has another problem here, and that is that they allowed this check to be, let's go back to this holder in due course. They gave value for it because they paid money. The question is, the real question is did they do it in good faith? And the argument over good faith is look, this checking account said it was payable to this guardianship. They allowed it to be deposited in something in an account other than a guardianship account, and so there's probably a lack of good faith here. But going back to the previous chapter, it was deposited not in accordance with the instructions on the check or in the endorsement. And so the bank really has two problems. A good faith problem, because they allowed it to go into a personal account, and not depositing in accordance with the instructions, that is, a guardianship for the son. So the bank here is going to be held liable. All right. December 11th, 1990, two American Express money orders in the amount of $550 and $650 were payable to Stacy Dillenbaugh, were presented to Chucky Enterprise, a check cashing operation in Philadelphia. The money orders were duly endorsed, and photo identification was provided by the payee, whereupon Chucky's paid the face amounts minus a 2% fee. Dillenbaugh was a previous customer of Chucky's and was recognized by such as the president of Chucky's. The two money orders had been stolen from the premises of an American Express agent. When stolen, the money orders were signed with a pre-printed signature of the chairman of American Express were blank as to payee, date, sender, and amount. When presented to Chucky's, however, they had been completed by persons unknown. Dillenbaugh's role is not clear from the case. She could have been an accomplice of the thief, or even someone who bought it from a thief, but the court did not say, and it is not critical to the issue here. The money orders were passed through the usual banking channels and were presented for payment at United Bank of Grand Junction, Colorado. American Express, having noted on its fraud log that the money orders were stolen, returned the money orders marked reported lost or stolen. Do not read deposit. American Express refused to pay the amount of the money orders. Triffin, a commercial discounter, purchased the dishonored money orders for cash from Chucky's and took an assignment of all Chucky's rights, claims, and interest. Triffin brought a suit against Dillenbaugh and American Express demanding payment of the stolen money orders. Judgment was entered against Dillenbaugh by default. Where blank money orders were stolen and completed without authorization prior to their negotiation, can the transferee enforce the instruments as completed if he qualifies as a holder in due course? Well, let's go back to these real defenses over here. On page 836. We look on 836. Number 1, minority or infancy. If Mark Miller, age 17, signs a promissory note as a maker, he can use the lack of capacity to contract as a defense against paying. Incapacity that under state law means the instrument is void. So this would be our adjudicated incompetent. Duress. Illegality under state law renders the obligation void. Okay? Fraud in the essence. This occurs when a person signs a negotiable instrument without knowing or having a reasonable opportunity to know that it's a negotiable instrument or that is essential terms. Or discharge in bankruptcy. And none of those would seem to qualify as real defenses. And you look at the personal defenses. Remember, personal defenses will not defeat a holder in due course. And we look on page 838, item number 7, unauthorized completion or alteration of the instrument. For example, the instrument was completed in an unauthorized manner or was altered after it left the maker's or drawer's possession. That would seem to qualify here, but that's a personal defense, and therefore a holder in due course is going to take free of that personal defense unless, for example, there was some indication that it had been unauthorized completion. So it's in different handwriting, it's in a different ink. Those would all be indications on the face that those instruments have been unauthorized, have been completed in an unauthorized way. None of those defenses seem to be there, or none of those indications seem to be there, and so a personal defense, and therefore going to be a holder in due course, and therefore cannot be defeated. All right, 8. Panlek, the owner of an apartment building, entered into a written contract with Baki, paving contractor, whereby Baki was to install asphalt paving on the parking lot. When Baki finished the job, gave Baki a check for $6,500 and a promissory note for $7,600 with interest at 10% due 6 months. When the note came due, refused to pay. Baki brought suit to collect the note, and Panlek claimed that there had been a failure of consideration because the asphalt was defectively installed. Can Panlek assert this defense against Baki? Yes, if Baki still holds the note and is in trying to enforce the note that he has, failure of consideration can be used to defeat the note. However, if Baki would have sold this note to someone else for value without notice, in good faith, then that person that Baki sold it to would have all the rights of a holder in due course and could in fact enforce it. And Panlec's only recourse then would be to sue Baki for his defective installation of the asphalt. But here, because Baki still owns it, even though Baki is technically a holder in due course, he's going to be sued when he sues Panlec to enforce the note. Panlec's going to countersue him for the defectively installed asphalt. All right, case 9. Ralph Herman wrote a check for $10,000 payable to Ormsby House, a hotel casino in Carson City, Nevada, and exchanged it for 3 counter checks he had written earlier that evening to acquire gaming chips. Ormsby House was unable to collect the proceeds from the check because Herman had insufficient funds in his account. The debt evidenced by the check was assigned to Sea Air Support for collection. Sea Air was also unsuccessful in its attempts to collect. I guess they didn't send the leg breakers to collect on it. Nevada law then provided that instruments drawn for the purpose of reimbursing or repaying any money knowingly lent or advanced for gaming are utterly void, frustrate, and are of no effect as Herman still liable to Sea Air. This one would appear to be a case in which the notes or the checks were void against public policy. Again, we go to these real defenses on page 836, and item number 4, illegality that under state law renders the obligation void, would be a real defense, and therefore cannot be enforced even against a holder in due course. All right, case number 10, Aluminum Industries. What they do is representative of who was seeking to sell them aluminum siding for their home. They agreed to purchase the siding and signed a number of documents, including a resale installment contract for $9,000. The contract granted a first lien on their residence. This was in violation of the Texas Civil Code, which prohibited such provisions. The promissory note contained a notice in bold print as required by the Federal Trade Commission. Aluminum Industries assigned the promissory note and first lien to Home Savings Association. Aluminum Industries subsequently went out of business. Home Savings brought a suit against these folks to collect the balance due on the note, and could not assert any, and that they could not assert any defense it had against Aluminum Industries. Well, let me give you some background on this case. What used to happen is a fly-by-night operation would come into town. You know, you've probably seen these box trucks that come into town and sell baby strollers and stereo systems and the like, and they finance it all. And before they leave town, they go down to the local bank. That's what they used to do. Go down to the local bank, and they would sell these notes, and they would take the cash, and then the bank would then collect these then from the residents of their own town. Well, the sellers of the products from the box truck were never to be seen of again. And in a lot of cases, those products were not just somewhat defective, but severely defective. And so once the bank became a holder in due course, our purchasers' only recourse was to find the seller of the product, which again was almost impossible to do because they drove around the country and you couldn't find them. And so these people were left with these defective products in which they had to pay the bank because the bank was a holder in due course. So to solve this problem, what happened is that the Federal Trade Commission passed a rule, and the rule says that, hey, look, if you're selling consumer goods, and you're taking a note for the sale of those consumer goods or a check, any person that purchases those notes or those checks from you do not get the status of a holder in due course. That is, any defenses that our purchaser would have against the original seller can be used against the person that purchased this negotiable instrument. And the FTC, they required then on the bottom of all these instruments for this language, as you see in this case, be put in this instrument. As a brief aside, if the company fails to put that language in the instrument, the person that purchases can still be a holder in due course as long as they meet the requirements for a holder in due course. And our purchaser would then be out of luck. But here the note was there. Therefore, any defenses that our purchaser would have against the original seller can be used against the bank here in this situation. Again, federal law requires that notice to be there. If that notice is not there, they can still be a holder in due course. All right. For Wednesday, what I want to do is I want to, for you to start sending me and your classmates any questions you have about anything that we've done so far in the class. Any questions you have on tests or anything, any things that you're unsure of, and we can email back and forth about my answers to those questions, and you can continue to ask them. Just be sure to use the reply all. And then on Friday, I will send your exam. I'm going to make your exam due. I'm going to send the exam out Friday. Let's make the exam due Monday morning at 8 o'clock. I know that's reading day, but I'm sending it out on Friday. If that creates a problem for any of you, please let me know, and I'm willing to make adjustments. But let's plan on that unless there's any objections. All right. Have a good day. Be safe. Bye.